Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place you come to. Really get under the hood of some fascinating sources, pull out those key insights, maybe a few surprising facts, and hopefully have a bit of an engaging time doing it. Today we're focusing on just one source, but it's really packed a punch. Excerpts from the Peril of Isolation. Now, isolation, it sounds simple enough, maybe like just being alone. But this source, well, it paints a much bigger picture, showing how it really affects how we learn, how we understand things, basically how we interact with the world. So our mission really is to unpack why this source says isolation is, well, dangerous, genuinely dangerous, especially for you if there's someone trying to, really get a solid grasp on things. And we'll also look at the strategies it suggests for staying connected to the world, connected to information. Yeah, this is all about a pretty fundamental truth for learning, I think.
It really is. And it feels incredibly relevant right now, doesn't it? This source gives this short, sharp warning. It's something you can apply to, well, everything from glancing at the headlines each day to, your big long-term learning projects. It's kind of foundational, I'd say, for anyone who wants to be properly informed, not just thinking they are.
Okay, let's dive in then. The absolute core statement from this source, the peril of isolation, is just stark. Isolation is dangerous.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, you hear that, maybe you think loneliness, social stuff, which is real, definitely. But the source seems to be digging deeper, doesn't it? Is it pointing towards, I don't know, an intellectual danger? Am I reading that right?
You are, absolutely. That's the heart of it. While, yes, social isolation is a serious thing, this source really puts the spotlight on the informational and intellectual side of the danger. It warns that when you, and it uses this phrase, cut yourself off, when you risk losing is, well, it's vital. It's not just missing out on new facts, but on different viewpoints, new ways of looking at things, the whole evolving, shifting landscape of knowledge itself. And what's really interesting is how wide-ranging that word dangerous becomes when you think about information. It's not just, oh, I feel a bit out of the loop. It's the actual risk of being underinformed. Or maybe worse, getting the wrong end of the stick entirely, becoming misinformed. The source talks about how this informational isolation, it really gets in the way of seeing the full picture, makes it harder to understand complex stuff, or you end up making decisions based on, well, half the story. Like, imagine a researcher just locked away, never talking to anyone, never sharing. Their work would be limited, right, possibly even wrong.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's not just that you're missing input. It's like your own understanding could get warped somehow. Like it gets fragile if it doesn't bump up against other ideas.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it, fragile. The source gets into how isolation doesn't just limit what comes in, it can actively distort how you see things. It points to things that sound a lot like what psychologists call, confirmation bias. If you're not getting different perspectives, you subconsciously start looking for stuff that just confirms what you already think. And that cements often a really incomplete or maybe even flawed view of things. You're not just missing data. You're kind of actively building a biased reality for yourself. You end up in, well, the source hints at it, an echo chamber.
The echo chamber.
Yeah, where your own ideas just bounce back at you, maybe louder, but they're never really challenged or made richer by other views. And this can lead to something called epistemic closure. Sounds fancy, but it just means a person or even a whole group gets so inward-looking they only trust stuff from inside their own bubble. They dismiss everything else. Doesn't matter how valid it is. The danger there is huge. It kills critical thinking. It makes you, well, easier to manipulate because you've got no outside reference points. And ultimately, it just stops intellectual growth. You stop learning because you think you know it all, or only your group knows it all.
Wow, okay. So it's not just out of sight, out of mind. It's more like what you do know can actually become less reliable or even actively wrong, which explains why the source isn't just suggesting something. It's practically ordering you. Don't cut yourself off. It's a real warning against letting your knowledge get stale, against missing those insights that could totally change how you see things or spark a whole new direction. It's like keeping your mental engine tuned up, running on fresh oil, not sludge.
That's a good analogy. Think about it like this. Your brain, it's always trying to predict things, make sense of the world, right? But if all you feed it is the same narrow stuff, the same perspective, its predictions, they get less accurate, less flexible. The source is basically saying the world's just too complicated, too messy, too interconnected for any single viewpoint or, limited set of facts to capture properly. If you only rely on what feels familiar, you're basically asking for a limited, maybe even wrong view of how things actually are.
That epistemic closure thing is Yeah, it's a bit chilling because you can see how easily you could slip into that without even noticing. We all like what's comfortable, what confirms our biases. But okay, the source doesn't just leave us with the warning, does it? It pivots, it offers the antidote. Stay connected to the world and information. And this feels like the really practical part, moving from don't do this to do this instead. So, how does this connection thing work? This connection to the world and to information, how does that actually shield you from those dangers we were just talking about?
Right, and it's really presented as a two-part strategy. Both parts matter. So connecting to the world, that means um, engaging more broadly with different viewpoints, yes, but also just, what's happening, current events, cultural stuff, what's going on globally. It's about deliberately opening yourself up to, well, the whole messy tapestry of human experience and thought, making sure your own little corner doesn't become completely walled off. And this is where something the source hints at becomes really interesting, the idea of weak ties.
Weak ties. Okay, tell me more. That sounds backwards. You'd think your close friends, your strong ties are the most important for information.
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive, but it's a really powerful idea that this source definitely seems to align with. Your strong ties, close friends, family, they're brilliant for support, for deep connection, absolutely. But often, it's the weak ties. That acquaintance you chat with occasionally, someone in a totally different field, maybe even just someone you follow online whose life is very different from yours.
Hmm.
They are often the ones who bring in genuinely new information. They act like bridges to completely different networks, different ideas, stuff your close circle just because they're similar to you might never encounter. These sort of um, unexpected inputs often trigger the biggest insights.
Huh. Bridges to new networks. I like that.
Exactly. So connecting to the world isn't just about passively reading news headlines. It's about actively, maybe even strategically, cultivating some of those diverse connections, even the lighter ones, because they expose you to different ways of thinking, different ways of living. It builds empathy. It challenges your assumptions, and it gives you a much richer context for understanding, well, just how varied people and ideas really are.
Okay, that makes sense for connecting to the world. And then the second part was connecting to information. How does that fit in, especially thinking about those weak ties bringing in novelty?
Right. So connecting to information is more about the deliberate act of seeking out and engaging with multiple sources of data, reading different accounts of the same event, looking at the raw data if you can, critically comparing different arguments, and crucially, updating what you know. It's not like you learn something once and it's fixed. Knowledge evolves. So this is the active process of keeping your internal database current and as accurate as possible. This is how you fight against those informational blind spots we talked about, how you maintain a really solid dynamic grasp of whatever it is you're interested in. It's ongoing, it's active, not just a one-off download of facts. And the source seems to push for not just more information, but a better quality and definitely more diverse information. It's encouraging you to be critical, to ask questions, to look for stuff that maybe disagrees with your initial view, not just confirms it. This kind of active engagement, it feeds into something bigger too, what people sometimes call collective intelligence. When lots of different perspectives are shared and debated, you get insights that no single person could ever reach alone. So your effort actually contributes in a small way to that bigger pool.
That image you mentioned earlier, the stagnant pond versus the flowing river, that really sticks. The isolation makes your knowledge like that pond, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cut off, nutrients depleting.
Exactly.
Whereas the connected approach is like that river, constantly getting new water, new inputs, flowing somewhere, staying fresh and alive. Your understanding needs that constant flow, those new currents. Otherwise, it just, well, can't adapt, can it? And the key thing, it seems, is that this isn't passive. You don't just sit by the riverbank. The source is saying you need to be actively engaged, deliberately seeking out ways to keep your understanding current and solid, which actually helps with that feeling of information overload, maybe, because you're being strategic, not just letting everything wash over you. You're building like a strong framework for your learning,
Hmm.
but it takes effort, right? You have to consciously step outside the comfort zone sometimes.
Absolutely. It's like being, I don't know, an intellectual gardener, maybe.
Hmm.
You're not just chucking seeds down and hoping for the best. You're tending to it. You're pruning, you're watering, you're bringing in new compost, making sure there's a healthy mix of things around it. It's that active curation of what you let into your mind that really counts. And yeah, being strategic helps avoid that feeling of being overwhelmed
Yeah.
because you're engaging with a purpose. You're looking for specific things that will challenge you or broaden your view, not just scrolling endlessly through whatever pops up.
Okay, so let's bring this right back to the person listening. What does all this mean for you? For your own journey of trying to learn things, understand the world, how do you take these ideas from the peril of isolation and actually use them?
Well, I think the bottom line, the real core message is that this call to connect with people, connect with information, it's not just a nice to have. It's not optional. If you're serious about understanding things properly, it's presented as absolutely essential. It's the way you dodge those traps of having a narrow view or an outdated view or just an incomplete picture of whatever you're looking into. It's what fuels those real moments of insight, those aha moments. It keeps your thinking clear and ensures that, your conclusions actually have a solid foundation. It's a kind of continuous deliberate act, like intellectual maintenance maybe, or even self-preservation in a way. So practically, for you listening, it means, well, maybe a few concrete things. First, consciously mix up your information sources. If you always read the same news site, maybe find two others with different angles. If you follow certain experts online, deliberately look for smart people who disagree with them. It's not about agreeing, it's about understanding the different arguments. Second, maybe consciously try to cultivate some of those weak ties we talked about. Chat with someone from a different department at work. Go to a local event about something you know nothing about. Even small interactions can spark big new ideas.
Yeah, it's like building resilience into how you see the world, isn't it? If your whole understanding rests on just one single pillar, one source, one viewpoint, it's pretty shaky, easily knocked over.
That's it?
But if you've built this network, this web of different inputs, different perspectives, it becomes way more robust. Like, say you're prepping for a big presentation at work. Don't just look at your team's numbers. Try and find what analysts are saying or what competitors are doing, or maybe even some academic paper that looks at the whole industry differently, that's actively bridging those gaps the source warns us about. Or if you're trying to learn about a new scientific discovery, don't just read the summary article. Maybe listen to a podcast where the researchers are interviewed. Find a debate about its implications. Look at the history that led up to it. Get the whole 3D picture.
Precisely. The goal isn't just more, it's richer. It's a more nuanced understanding that emerges when you see how different pieces fit together, or sometimes how they clash. It helps ensure that when you form an opinion or make a call, it's not just your gut feeling, but something genuinely informed by a well-connected network of knowledge. It really empowers you to spot the blind spots, your own blind spots that you would have otherwise missed. And that just makes you a sharper, more adaptable learner, whatever you're trying to figure out.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into excerpts from The Peril of Isolation. It started with a simple, stark warning, but it really opened up into a profound insight about keeping our minds active and healthy. That constant, deliberate act of connection, it really is the best defense against the dangers of getting stuck in an informational rut. It's about seeking wisdom, not just accumulating facts.
And maybe that leaves you with a final thought, a question to chew on. In what ways, perhaps without even realizing it, might you be cutting yourself off right now from certain viewpoints, certain types of information? And following on from that, what's one small, deliberate step you could take, maybe even today, to start bridging one of those gaps, to proactively strengthen your connection to the world and all the knowledge it holds?